Welcome again, everyone. I'm Alfie from Heavyweight News, and I'm joined with some great guests today. We're going to have a little chat about everything heavyweight boxing, all of the latest topics. So I'm just going to allow everyone to introduce themselves, starting with you, Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Harridges. I write for Fansided and obviously do some video work for Fight Network as well.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I write for the Boxing Index.
Hi, I'm K Casual Boxing News, also known as K Casual. Just keeping it casual with all the boxing news, really.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Thanks, all three of you, for coming on. Obviously, we've all got a love for boxing. We all enjoy the characters of boxing. We all enjoy all of the sort of ups and downs and so forth. I know Jeremy recently had a great interview with Jarrell Miller about the doping scandal, the PEDs. So firstly, I just wanted to ask you, Jeremy, about your personal opinions on that. Obviously, that interview gained a lot of traction, got you a lot of feedback, and you also got mentioned by Eddie Hearn about your interview skills and stuff. So how did that come about, and what do you actually feel should happen now that he's actually had his second chance and blown it again?
Yeah, it's obviously a unique situation. We haven't had one really like it as far as how infamous it's become due to the repeated number of tests that he's failed. It came about, I just started doing some video work for Fight Network. He had ties to the Fight Network as well, so they kind of just paired us together. And the whole idea was that, hey, this is going to be a legit interview. It's going to be direct questions. It's going to be a fair interview. You know, I don't think I took any unfair shots at him. I tried to go into it asking questions that we all had regarding the numerous tests. It wasn't just about the one test most recently. I had questions going back to obviously the failed tests in April. So that's where I was coming from. So he was fully aware of that. He knew what I was going to ask. A lot of people are like, well, I'm not sure he was so prepared that you were going to ask him such direct questions, but I put it all on the table. I never shared my questions with him. I would never do that ethically as a journalist, but I said, I want to touch on this issue and other issues. And that's kind of where I left it. And that's where everything came together. As far as my personal opinion on everything, I would like to see what ends up coming from it. I'd like to hear what NSAC has to say, Nevada State Athletic Commission, what their final ruling is, if there's anything added in the report. I want to see all the facts before I jump to any conclusions, which is also why I wanted to ask him the questions and give him a chance to address them. Obviously, right now, the optics aren't good. I don't know if he addressed them in a way that appeased a lot of people. I think he could have been more forthright, but we'll see what happens. If it stands up, then obviously I think there's what people think is fair, and then there's what will be. And I think those are two separate things.
Definitely. I think he certainly deflected the blame and sort of touched on the fact that he wasn't aware that there was facilities there for him to get everything that he is taking tested and so forth. But as a heavyweight boxer and a professional boxer, especially with so much on the line with the Joshua fight, it just come across a little bit irresponsible and as if he didn't want to take any blame for that. And you kind of think to yourself, you know, if someone's going to get away with it twice, how many others are going to do it, you know, and get away with it as well? You've kind of got to be very strict, I find, with that type of thing. And I do think he's had his chances. I don't know if you actually watched the Takam Forrest fight, but, you know, he was a good replacement and it was a great fight in the end. And you kind of sit there and you think, would Miller be missed? You know, someone who's actually blown his chance twice when there's so many up-and-coming fighters actually waiting for their shot, you know, and they're doing it properly and they're really working their arse off to actually get these big fights. I just find that he's taking chances too much, and I personally don't think he should be given another chance, if I'm honest.
And I would agree as far as what's fair, right? 3 strikes, you're out type of deal that, hey, this is your third chance, going all the way back to 2014, which he denied.
Right. Yeah.
Which, again, like, I didn't do my homework on that. I think what he was trying to get at that was that there's a bit of a technicality there. He was suspended for 9 months from kickboxing, yet he was still granted a license a few months later for boxing because they're 2 different sports, even though it's under the same athletic commission. Yeah. That speaks again to the loopholes in the American system, that as long as you have state athletic commissions acting independently, we're going to continue to have these same problems, that there's something inherently flawed in the fact that we don't have a governing body that oversees all the states. And even right there in the one state, you test positive in one store. Okay, you're suspended for 9 months. Oh, different sport. Okay, we'll give you a license. That seems incredibly reckless. And there's a lot of issues with that. Just looking at that is ridiculous. But yeah, he was suspended for 9 months from kickboxing, yet he was still able to get into a boxing ring in the same state, which just completely bewilders me how that's possible. But welcome to the United States and state athletic commissions.
Absolutely. And no, that's absolutely great. And I mean, I know I was speaking to Kay Casual about this recently because we've obviously got White Povetkin coming up quite soon, which is probably going to be one of the bigger fights that we've had for a while. Matchroom Square Gardens, which is all quite exciting just to see how that works out. I know we saw David Adelaide fight in the BT Sports Studio, and just to feel what it was like without a huge crowd and stuff. Kay Casual, what are your thoughts on that? How do you feel Dillian's actually going to go into that fight? Are you confident that he's got what it takes to take on someone who is always a threat to any boxer?
I mean, yeah, I feel like he can. I reckon he'll get the job done. I reckon he'll do what's needed, really.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it is questionable. I mean, we could question whether he is sort of a top 4 sort of world ranking boxer, like, you know, based on his sort of previous performances. But I don't know, really. Like, well, what you tell me? What do you reckon?
Well, I love Dillian Whyte. He is probably my favourite boxer at the moment. I love his character. I love how he always comes to fight. I've been watching him recently on his Instagram posts and so forth. I know he's out in Portugal training, and it looks like he's having a fantastic camp.
He's in a great camp.
He didn't have such a good camp against WAC in Saudi Arabia on the undercard for Joshua Ruiz. So I don't think you're going to see the same fighter you saw then, when I think he was a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish. I think he's definitely ready for Povetkin. But Povetkin is, you know, he's a game opponent for anyone. I think he got the draw against Michael Hunter, didn't he? Which was a good fight, good solid fight. I don't know if everyone agrees that should have been a draw. What do you think, Cameron?
Yeah, I watching that, I actually thought that Michael Hunter won that. So I think maybe he could be, maybe not a better choice for this fight, because I think maybe he deserves it more because I think he won the Povetkin fight. But I think Povetkin probably makes a bit more sense because I think those styles mix better. I think they've obviously promoted it on the back of the whole both of them having big left hooks. And also obviously Povetkin's a bit more known in Britain because of the Price and the Joshua fights. So I think that fight makes more sense, but I do think that Povetkin actually lost to Michael Hunter.
What do you think, Jeremy?
You know, I'd have to go back and rewatch the fight. I did watch it live, and I thought it was a close fight. I thought it was a good performance from both men. I think Povetkin, despite his 41 odd years, I think showed that he still has a lot of talent and something left. I think as far as a matchup for Dillian Whyte, if I'm looking at heavyweights on the landscape, who would I want him in there with? Povetkin sounds like a great choice to me because it's a guy that's still talented, who's still going to put on a good, tough fight. However, he's got years on him. I think it's making a significant impact on his boxing skills. If we look at Povetkin today as Povetkin from 9 years ago, there's no doubt in my mind that obviously he's not the same fighter, although still very, very good. I think it's the right choice, and I think it's the right selection. I think it's a guy that who's skilled that Dillian Whyte can look really good against. A guy that I think is chinny enough at this point that Dillian Whyte could also get a knockout probably around the same time that Anthony Joshua did against him. And I think he fights the same fight and probably gets the same results, or at least somewhere close to that. So I think stylistically, I think it's perfect for Dillian Whyte at this point.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that he is, he's always going to be a threat, but he is at a stage now, as you say, where Joshua sort of picked him off. I can't remember exactly what round it was, but it was around the 6th round, I believe.
I think it was 7th round.
Yeah,
seven, I think.
Yeah, something around that. And I think, you know, as the rounds go on, he gets a little bit slower. The left hook is less of a threat. Whereas I think Dillian, especially when he's had a good camp, his left hook will be a threat throughout the whole thing. You know, as we saw against Chisora. It only takes one of those big shots to put someone away. So it's an exciting fight. I think a lot of boxing, heavyweight boxing in particular, is now looking to that Fury-Joshua fight. I know there's been rumours that Wilder has stepped aside and said, I'll let that go ahead, probably for a hefty sum. I don't think Dillian Whyte is willing to step aside. So I'm just interested to see how that pans out. If it does go ahead and Fury-Joshua fight, you know, and that huge unification bout goes ahead. Cameron, what are your thoughts on how that will pan out?
Well, I guess it depends how each of the guys approach it, because obviously recently we've seen from both of them that they can mix up what we thought they could do. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting whether they both really come at each other in the middle of the ring or whether they both try and box each other. I think one thing that's really going to come down to a lot is body shots. I think Tyson Fury no one really goes for his body, especially Wilder. And Dillian Whyte actually mentioned this on a recent podcast I listened to, where he said that he would really go for the body. And then he made the point where he said, in the Wilder fight, who knows whether Fury would have been able to get up in that 12th round if Wilder had gone for his body more, because he would have been obviously more knackered. So I think if Joshua does go for the body, then I think that can make it a lot more interesting. And then, maybe tire Fury in the later rounds.
Absolutely. What about yourself, K Casual?
I'm not sure, you know. I feel like it could end up going to judges. Personally, I feel like I don't know if AJ's not able to knock him out, it could definitely end up sort of going to the judges. With regards to sort of Tyson Fury, I could see him maybe getting the win.
What, maybe might go to points and Fury will just edge him out.
Yeah, that's what I reckon could happen.
Got
in my opinion.
And Jeremy, what about yourself?
Well, here's the thing that's so fascinating about the heavyweight division. There's so many question marks, right? I think if we look at Tyson Fury, I'm still amazed at the Tyson Fury that I saw, you know, ringside against Deontay Wilder. A lot of people are like, that really shocked you? I'm like, yeah, that really shocked me. A guy that's known as more of a boxer, going out like a crusher, going for the home run shots in round 1 and round 2. He completely flipped his style, and I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know he had that in him. I'm not sure necessarily if he knew he had it himself, but boy, did he bring that out, and did he look fantastic. If you get that Tyson Fury day in, day out, wow. I mean, I was stunned. I mean, the Kronk style really worked for him. I would like to see that more than once, you know, just to show that not that it was a fluke, because once you get to that point, his style and his skills are there. He can adapt. But to replicate that, you know, that wasn't the same guy that was in there against Otto Wallin. That was a different fighter to me. He raised his game to a new level. So that Tyson Fury, I think, can beat anybody. At the same time, who's not going to get knocked out by an Anthony Joshua right cross if it connects cleanly? So when you're dealing with the heavyweights, that's the big question mark. But no doubt I have to favor Tyson Fury over anybody right now, especially if he can keep doing that. And he's still young enough that he can keep doing that at least for a year or two more. After that, you know, once you start getting into that 34-year-old range, Deontay Wilder's range, things start happening to the body and to the mind. And I don't know if you're ever going to be quite the same fighter at that point.
Yeah, I would say I have to agree with that. I think I wouldn't put anyone beating Fury at the moment. And like you say, I would like to see him fight how he did against Wilder again, because he had such a great camp and he really had something to prove. So I would hate to think that he would come out against Joshua and maybe slip back into his old ways where he was struggling mentally, where he didn't have the camp he wanted. But I know, again, for the second fight against Wilder, they were talking about the fact that he trained to sit down in his punches more, because we probably all know that he isn't known to be a knockout puncher. He's known to be a very, very good boxer. And, you know, that was what was missing. You know, that was what was missing before that fight. He put it all together against Wilder and he absolutely schooled him, which was such a great thing to watch. Against Joshua, who's a very, you know, still relatively young, very hungry fighter, who's come back from a defeat. He knows how it feels to be defeated. He won't want that to happen again, like what happened against Ruiz. So they're both hopefully going to have fantastic training camps, which means they'll come into the fight ready with no excuses. And it really is just an amazing fight to watch. I do think Dillian deserves his shot. I do think he probably will stand in the way of Joshua and Fury taking place. But then I sit there and think, what would I do in that position? I would do the same thing. If he's been waiting for, it's different if he was waiting a month. You know, he probably would step aside and go, I'll just fight the winner. But it's kind of like he's had so long to wait for his mandatory fight. Why should he just wait again? You know, why should he wait? It could be another 6 months to a year until he actually gets the fights he wants. And, you know, he's not the sort of person to sit there and not take fights in the meantime, because he you know, that's what he's like at the end of the day. So I do think White should get his shot. I'm very, very excited about what would happen with Joshua and Fury. And they've both got things, to overcome before the fight. What do you guys think about Joshua's next opponent? Jeremy, what do you feel about Joshua's next opponent? Do you think he's going to be a bit of a banana skin, or do you think he's going to sort of walk through him?
Honestly, with Joshua, I think there's a lot of lingering questions with him right now. Just like we said, there's question marks around Tyson Fury and the style of fight that he's going to put forth next time. Is he going to be the boxer? Is he going to be the hunter, that he looked like against Wilder? I have to ask myself the same question about Anthony Joshua. Is he going to be the same power puncher that went looking for the knockout in the first Ruiz fight, or is he going to be the guy that stayed on the outside using his jab in the second Ruiz fight? And that's the question. Which one is he going to use? Or is he going to kind of start to mix the two a little bit? Is he going to start to pick his punches a little bit more carefully? Is he going to see, okay, I've got him hurt, I'm going to go in now? That's the question mark. And how much confidence does he have in his own chin at this point? The way he fought Ruiz was very careful, almost like, I don't want to get tapped on the chin too hard, which I'm not knocking him for that. But I think he got a fright in that fight, no doubt. And I think he's protecting what he has. I mean, who wants to be punched? And when you go in there and you force a knockout, you're leaving yourself open, which he did in the first Ruiz fight. So I think it's going to be maybe a little bit more of a mix. I think he has to look more aggressive than he did against Ruiz. But I don't think he's going to be going out there looking for the home run like he did in the past.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we've got another big domestic British clash coming up with Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois. So, K Casual, what do you think's gonna go down in that fight? I actually done a poll on my Instagram today, and it looks very, very much in favour for Dubois, which is quite interesting.
I think Dubois will get the job done. I mean, Joe Joyce is he's a good boxer, he's very technical, but he's a bit slow at times. So I feel like, I think he will slow down in the later rounds, and perhaps Dubois will sort of knock him out sort of later on in the rounds. Cool. Maybe round 7.
What about yourself, Cameron?
Yeah, I think Dubois probably will take it, but I think it'll be an interesting indication of his level at the moment and where he's at, because Joe Joyce isn't someone who's going to go down easy. It's not like he can throw a flurry of punches in the first couple rounds and get him down easy. We've seen that he's got a chin and that he just keeps coming forward. So I think Dubois will win it, but I kind of want Joe Joyce to take him into the later rounds a bit just to see a bit more about Dubois.
Absolutely. And what about yourself, Jeremy?
It's a really intriguing matchup when you just look at the fact that, obviously they're both undefeated. They both have really nice records, but at the same time, there's that age discrepancy between the two. A lot of people forget how old Joe Joyce is. I mean, he's 34 years old at this point. Yeah. Against a young early 20s fighter in Daniel Dubois. And again, it's not all about the age, but I think that has a lot to do with it. Once you start getting into that 34-year-old range, weird things happen. And I've even talked about it with Deontay Wilder, whose camp I used to frequent quite a bit, where, hey, we're not that far apart in age. I'm 36, he's 34. Are you feeling different things? And he admitted to me, yeah, my body doesn't do the same things. It doesn't feel the same way that it did when I was 24. That's for sure. So I think even though Joe Joyce has 10 fights, 9 KOs, hasn't had that mileage on him, it doesn't matter. Once you get at 34, things just start happening at that age. That seems to be the number where things aren't quite right. So even when a lot of people talk about Wilder, why did Wilder look the way Wilder looked? Was it all Tyson Fury, or was there something going on with Wilder? And let's forget about all the excuses, the suit and this and that and the other. Yeah, forget about that. When you have 34-year-old legs, you have 34-year-old legs. They're just not going to be as sharp as what they were even a year or two ago. I mean, there's got to be something said for age. And I think a lot of people are discounting that, which is why it's going to be really interesting to see, how does Deontay Wilder look in his next fight? That's the big question mark to me.
Absolutely. And who he chooses. And if there is a trilogy, do we think that it will just be exactly the same? Or do you think Wilder could come back? I don't think there's enough time, even if he had a year and a half, to gain the boxing skills that he would need to beat that type of level Fury, if that makes sense. I really don't think that he has it in him to do that. The first fight, I think Fury probably didn't go in and fight the fight he should have. I do think he should have sat down his punches. With someone of his size, he's 6'9". You have to bully your opponent, and I don't think although Wilder's also quite a big lad, I think that Fury is bigger than him in weight, and I think he should have just bullied him in the first fight where he didn't do it as much. I also think he probably did win it. Obviously, he got knocked down quite late on, which caused the draw. But I think Wilder doesn't really have it in him to beat someone like Fury, but I think he also believes in himself a lot. So it makes for an interesting matchup because I think he will go in there and probably just again try and knock him out. Just catch him with that big right hand. So that trilogy fight would be really interesting. I think there was a couple of talks about Joseph Parker fighting soon as well. So don't know what everyone's heard on that, but I like Parker. I think he's a great opponent for anyone. I don't know who he can come against. I would actually like to see Dillian Whyte and Parker fight again sometime because they had a great little fight, didn't they?
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. As far as Joseph Parker, even though he's lost, I think those losses have given him a vast amount of experience that I think he needs. I think people look too much into the win-loss category. I think we have to look at what did the fighter do in a loss, or how did they endure it? What happened? I mean, he's been in against incredible competition. He hasn't always won. However, you could make arguments that he deserved the win against Whyte. He had Whyte hurt. Even though he was hurt early, he showed resiliency and came back and really finished off the fight quite nicely. I think there's more to Joseph Parker than people think. I really like his skill set, and I think he's getting better. And again, another question mark in the heavyweight division. How good could Joseph Parker be? I don't think he gets enough credit, and I think he could be a wild card that could upset a lot of people's plans. And he wouldn't be a guy that if I was one of the top heavyweights, I wouldn't want to go in there with him. I think he's too much of a danger at this one.
That's
right?
exactly how I feel.
Mm-hmm. I just think he's a risk factor that people don't want. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to become widely avoided.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've got Usyk and Chisora looming as well. What do you think, K Casual, on that fight? What do you think about him coming out? I know Usyk's had a couple of fights at heavyweight now and he has handled it, but has he come up against someone as ferocious and game as someone like Chisora?
I don't know. I'm not sure really. I'd have to sort of watch through, but I definitely like Usyk, and I think he can go and get the win. And once again, I think he'll pick Chisora apart. I'm not gonna lie. I think he's just Usyk's very technical. He's a very technical boxer. He's beautiful to watch in my opinion. I think he's a great boxer, and I can definitely see him stopping Chisora at some point, or just technical knockout sort of later rounds. But that's just my opinion, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And Cameron, what do you think about that, mate?
Yeah, that's one that I actually had tickets for before all the coronavirus stuff happened.
Oh.
So I was a bit gutted to see that one delayed. But yeah, I hope they still get it on. And I think Usyk probably wins that. But again, a bit like with the Joyce Dubois one, I think that's a good. Obviously, we know Usyk's level. We know he's a world-class fighter, but we don't know how he'll fare against the bigger guys in the heavyweight division. I know Chisora is not like massively tall, but he's definitely a proper heavyweight. And so yeah, I think that would be good to see how he sort of fares with that.
No, absolutely. I think Usyk, he's a great fighter. I think one thing Derek Chisora can do is really soak up the punches. We saw it against Takam. I think at one point through one of the rounds, he literally sat on the ropes and just took everything that Takam had. And then a couple of rounds later, he comes out and just catches him clean. And then that was a night over for Takam. So I think it'll be a great fight because Usyk will know at any point if he gets caught with one of them big shots from Chisora, he's going to go. So I think we've got loads and loads of great fights coming up. Obviously, all of us are staying up to date with it. I really hope we could actually do this again. I think we are running out a little bit of time with our call, so we'll finish there. But honestly, great to have all of you guys on. Thanks for giving me your opinion, and hopefully speak to you all soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
No worries at all.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
No worries. Take care, guys. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Peace.
Have a good one. Bye.